The aim of our study was to determine the effect of creatine on the rate of bicep muscle fatigue in university students. We predicted creatine supplementation will prolong the onset of muscle fatigue in young adults. Now, creatine is a naturally occurring nitrogenous organic acid made from 3 amino acids, glycine, arginine, and methionine, and is found in muscle cells of the body. Creatine functions within the muscle cells as a reservoir for the energy source ATP. Creatine is phosphorylated to create phosphocreatine, which then becomes an active energy source for the muscle when dephosphorylated, releasing ATP. Creatine can be sourced from different foods, so an individual's nutritional intake determines how much is in our body. Found in fish and lean red meat, specifically gammy meat, as it contains less fat and has more lean muscle. There are no vegetarian food sources for creatine, therefore vegetarians produce creatine within their bodies by consuming foods high in amino acids, which aid in the creatine production within our liver, pancreas, and kidneys. These days it's common to supplement with synthetically produced creatine to enhance athletic performance. Our study focused on fatigue of the bicep muscle group by performing bicep curls, and this was due to its simplicity of action for non-experts and allowed us to see the effect creatine has on fatigue across both males and females at different exercise lifestyles. We chose to study the effect of creatine because of its renowned use by weightlifters and powerlifters and sprint runners, also because of its obtainability, also because it's not present on ASADA's prohibited substance list. We wanted to test the efficiency and efficacy of creatine over the loading and maintenance phases and to see when the peak in fatigue offset is made. Muscle fatigue can be defined as a decrease in the ability of a muscle to perform repeated or maximum muscle action. In similar terms, fatigue occurs following a period of sustained activity. Depletion of required substrates such as ATP or glycogen within the muscle results in fatigue as the muscle is not able to generate energy and force to power contractions. Fatigue is facilitated by factors including buildup in lactic acid, which decreases the pH, and neurotransmitter exhaustion.
Method. Our experiment was performed using a 6 kg dumbbell and an electromyography machine to measure maximum voluntary contraction. Individuals were seated with electrodes connected to their biceps and triceps to measure the electrical activity of the muscles. We began by testing the maximum number of repetitions and the maximum voluntary contraction of each of the participants. We then began the first week of creatine supplementation as each individual was provided with 7 doses that were measured at 300 mg of creatine per kilogram of the individual. This was due to previous research concluding this dose produced the most desirable therapeutic effect. The experiment was conducted the following week and was deemed the loading phase, as the level of muscle creatine had increased to what was expected to be its maximum capacity. The second week included dosing of 30 mg per kilogram of the individual, and this was deemed the maintenance phase, as maximum creatine levels were maintained within the cells throughout the second week of supplementation. At the end of the week 2, the final tests were conducted. The results depicted strong evidence that our hypothesis was supported due to the positive relationship between creatine uptake and muscle fatigue. There was a significant improvement in each participant's number of repetitions of bicep curls during each phase of testing during the creatine supplementation period. However, there are several limitations that may have had an impact on the results of the experiment. Form when executing dumbbell bicep curls was potentially different from week to week, as well as between different participants. Participants were instructed to limit arm flexion as much as possible. However, as fatigue set in, some participants found it difficult to restrict their movement. Another limitation of the test was the inability to measure creatine levels within the muscle. Creatine was theoretically at its maximum capacity after the loading phase, however this was not physically tested as a muscle biopsy is required. In light of this, future areas of study should devise ways of ensuring bicep curl form remains strict, potentially by tailoring the weight to the individual. Overall, increasing creatine uptake has shown a clear relationship with prolonging fatigue in working muscles and is a viable...
Created using Powtoon.